I, like a lot of women I know, have kind of lived over masculinized. At least that was in the past. I was very, very feminine identity, but my essence, my expression, my actions, my thinking was very very masculinized, and nothing wrong with it, but it was out of balance. I mean, to the expense of my feminine, and now this is all coming back online. Which brings me to something I wanted you to share with the audience. In researching you, I loved hearing, your extensive background in academia and politics and law, and even working with the UN, right?
Mm.
But I loved how you kind of put it all aside at one point in your life, and you decided you got very clear on your values and what was meaningful in your life, and you decided to be leave it all and stay at home while your wife was working, take care of the children, and you started painting. You became an artist. You shared that it was in that space, once you did that and you created the space, that it opened the door to allow the divine inspiration, the connection, the messages, and now the pivot of your life's work, and everything that you've developed, learned, and shared since. But you were the one who had to create the space. And what I'm getting at for everybody is that was a feminine action that you didn't will yourself through it and read a million books when you were wondering and what should I do next, like I would have done, over masculinized, thinking, okay, what do I have to do, who do I have to meet, what conference should I go to, what book do I have to read, I'll start meditating. That's all in the masculine. You instead pulled it way back. You painted, which obviously is the feminine, and you allowed the yourself to receive it, to come to you. And I love that. So please share with us that experience and what we can learn from it so we can do the same.
You may not know what the right thing to do is, but you can know what the wrong thing is. And once you realize what the wrong thing, it makes it easier to make choices. And as you're saying that, I'm reminded of the Lorenz van der Post and others went out and worked with the Bushmen of the Kalahari. And there's a famous documentary made about the Bushmen of the Kalahari and how they catch or how they find water in a time of drought. And you may have seen it, but what they do
No.
is what they used to do was they knew that the only beings that knew where the water was in times of drought were the baboons. So they had to
Yeah.
get the baboons to show where the water is, but the baboons are very secretive. So what the bushman would
Well,
do
that's
was
funny.
he would walk up to a kind of sandbank where the baboons were, and he would dig a hole, and he would put some nuts in the hole, and make sure in the full sight of the baboons and the trees, and then he would walk away. Now he knew that they were very curious, so one would go up, and they would stick their hand in to get the nuts inside. Now the hole was big enough to let the hand come in, but when they closed their fist, it would lock in. So in order to release themselves, the baboon would have to open their fist and let go of the nuts. But psychologically, they would not let go of the nuts, with the result that they would trap themselves in the sandbank with their hand. So the, the bushman would come along with a lead around the neck of the baboon and take them to a tree, and they would leave them there by the tree, and they would put a block of salt beside them and leave the baboon. So the baboon gets hungry, and after a while they eat the salt, and of course, then the bushman comes back. The baboon is very thirsty. He lets go of the leash, and the baboon will run to the secret water source and reveal where it is.
Perfect. That's
Now,
brilliant.
brilliant, yeah. Traditional ecological knowledge, if you like, but in those cases, the action is dependent on knowledge or the behavior of the baboon themselves. So letting go is a crucial thing. You want to hold on to something because, yeah, I'm not going to let go of this. But people will fight to hold on to things that are not significant. And as they say, there's no pockets and shrouds. When we go to the next world, we're not going to be bringing anything with us. It will be what we have. What we have is what we are. It's what's inside us. It's our essence. It's our spirit. And that is the transcendent force. So I was disillusioned when I, for a whole range of factors, not least, for example, when I studied international law and read all the supposed rules about how things were meant to be and human rights, and then you had war in Iraq and that, etc., and that nations could, construct justification to intervene, which was, it was basically a tissue of lies. It defeated all the claims to international justice that existed. And then when it came to we're having a family, I said, okay, well, I personally think that the sending kids to school, if you have the option too early, is not great. So I said, I'll stay at home. I wasn't interested in the career. My wife's career was going well, so I said I'd stay at home. So that was I didn't know where I was going, what the purpose was. I had an idea that I would write and paint. I had painted always, but I said I'll concentrate a bit more and I'll write in a more creative way. That was the intention. Again, but as a peripheral thing, because when the kids are going around, your attention is focused on them. Now, I found it very liberating. I know I've read all this stuff about, people being at home, lonely, all that kind of stuff. I didn't feel any of that. I'd worked in the university for years, going in every day where you have people in front of you. And I knew a priest who he talked about a thing called people sickness, where meaning, or audience sickness, meaning when you're facing people all the time, it can get very draining,
Sure.
and
Energy out. Yep.
Yeah. So the self kind of has to get a hard face, if you like, to deal with that. But there was all that. I thought it was a good time. But you're right, reception is a key point. Letting go is a key point. And reception is one possible route, or probably the root of the word Kabbalah. That's what it means in Hebrew, in one reading of it. So, and that indicates the fact that a lot of spiritual transformation, metanoia, and development is based on opening yourself up. Now, opening yourself up in some kind of structured, disciplined way as well.
Yeah.
But what that did for me was create space. Now, you kind of don't know. You couldn't rationally work out, oh, I need space. And I don't think you can work out that way. You have to go with an intuition. And there was a strange process as well, because when I came to Sweden, I didn't speak Swedish. Now, when you're in a country where you don't speak the language initially, so yeah, you have to learn it. You're infantilized by that process. You can't be, oh, I'm this, you could do that in Sweden because a lot of people speak English, so you could do the English speaking guy all the time and maintain your status, but you lose status when you're kind of fumbling through the words at the start. When you're speaking like a child, your position diminishes quite quickly in that sense. And if you say, well, I'm a lecturer in university, senior lecturer, I do this and all that, people treat you in a different way. If you say, well, I'm minding the children, that changed. Your status changed. Now, I found that very liberating. I found that a lot of people would find that difficult. I found that liberating because I was letting go of the nuts the baboon is holding on to, the equivalent of that. So it was a letting go. I found it really, you began to see, you see things clearer when you see how people see you or don't see you. So that's a revealing thing as well. Yeah. So you begin to realize that because we create a persona ourselves, but other people create a persona of us as well. And when you divorce yourself from that, it's easier to see who you are, especially when you commit yourself to who you are. So I didn't really know what the answers was, but what happens, I'd always been interested in spirituality, but I put that aside in many senses because I was so preoccupied with all the gory details of how the world works that wasn't really there in the same way. But what began to happen over a period of time, and I do think also that, say, looking after children, for example, you're not paying attention to yourself. Your ego is parked somewhere else, because by definition, looking at things around, you come out of yourself. You kind of project yourself out of your own introspection. And that was, now that I look back, was very, 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 very useful. So, as you said, it's letting go, and that letting go clears the decks for reception. And it became very specific as I began to kind of, I would say, take poetry from the air. It's like in Ireland, some of the people who wrote music, fiddle tunes, said that they plucked them from the air. That's what happens when you become receptive. Sorry for going on too long with
I
that.
love it. No, this is so key, James, because again, this show is, holistic health and wellness, but also really helping the world. Mostly women are subscribing, but helping the world get back in touch with our feminine, and particularly in America. I'm not sure about Ireland and Switzerland and other countries as much, but, the driven, ambitious, like go, 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 push, 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 and the whole woman's lib and all that was great, but, women trying to do it all and wear the pants, and, it's like so many of us just lost that whole other half of ourselves. So this is very helpful for us to try to just to hear a living example, and particularly a man, which is beautiful.